Hi, my name is Dan May. I'm from Ramsac. We're an independent IT consultancy based in Surrey. The General Data Protection Regulations come into force in May 2018, and over the last 12 months, countless organisations have been talking to us as an IT vendor about how they can ensure they're ready to comply with the new laws. Most organisations have been working towards GDPR compliance over the last 12 months. But for some organisations that haven't started yet or that are only just hearing about GDPR, I think the important message is it isn't too late. There are various things that you can do to ensure that come May you are compliant or working towards compliance as far as GDPR is concerned. I think of GDPR as having two main impacts. Firstly, it's analysis of the data that your organisation holds, whether you can continue to legitimately store that data and how you use it. And secondly, it's how you secure data and the information security systems that you have in place to ensure that you don't suffer a data breach. So thinking about the first part, the data that you hold, now is the time to identify all of the data sources in your organisation. This doesn't just mean your marketing database, this could also include donors, key sponsors, staff, key suppliers. Any data that you hold that identifies individuals, so databases that have names, email addresses, dates of birth, home addresses, phone numbers, etc. Think about where that data is and how it's being held and how it's being accessed. Each part of that data needs to have a separate risk assessment applied to it. So you need to think about what is the data, is it sensitive, who has access to it, why are we keeping it, and do we have a legitimate interest to keep hold of it? So a good example of that would be staff data. It goes without saying that you need to maintain data on all of the people that work for you. When somebody leaves, it's also completely legitimate that you should keep a record of their employment, and indeed from an HMRC point of view you should keep payroll data for at least 6 years. But do you really have a legitimate right to keep hold of other information about those individuals, such as their medical history, their next of kin information, etc. For each data source you need to think about what you're holding, why, how long you need to hold it for, who has access to it, and how that access is controlled. On the security point of view, it's important to ensure that you keep that data as secure as possible. So physically, where is that data held? How strong is the password policy around that data? How do you control who has access and how you lock down access if, for example, a member of your marketing team leaves the organisation? You need to think about what happens to data that's held on mobile devices, such as tablets, smartphones or laptops. We've all seen high-profile news coverage of MPs that have left laptops on trains. But if that was a laptop that your employee was holding that had a record of service users or customers, you need to think about how you would ensure that that device could be perhaps remotely wiped, password protected, the data encrypted, etc. So in a nutshell, it's really important to take some action now. The law will be controlled and regulated in the UK by the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office. And the ICO has huge teeth to put sanctions, including potentially quite large fines, into organisations that are in breach of GDPR. For most organisations, it's not a fear of the cash fines that you should be worried about. It's about making sure that you are being responsible to the data subjects that you maintain information on. So take a little bit of time to look at what data you're holding, whether you need to carry on holding it, how you're gaining permission from people that are filling in forms on your website, for example, to ensure that people are completely aware and you're completely overt about how you're using information, and then look at the back-end IT infrastructure to ensure that that is safe, secure, and that you can do something about it if there is a breach.